Go ahead and crack open a beer, because today for Culture Vulture we talk drinking traditions from around the world.
Yeah, with your news in the opening about that convenience store selling so much wine, the imports increasing 100%. I think COVID has really helped that as well.
Yeah, right.
Home drinking.
Yeah, exactly. People not going out anymore. Yeah, and convenience stores here in Korea have really upped their game. I know Nur texted in and with the laughy face saying nobody drinks wine at a convenience store. That's true. But people do buy wine at a convenience store nowadays.
I reckon after the restrictions are lifted, there will be people cracking open the wine, getting some disposable cups and having them at the tables. Because you have beer and soju there, you know, in normal times.
Yeah.
And I can see people doing that with wine because the section has increased like massively, right?
And that really is a part of it is a small part of Korean drinking culture to drink at a convenience store, right? To have some beers and some snacks and some food there. Lots
part
of
the
people do it.
experience.
Yeah, and that's obvious. Quite commonly, the place that is open all night long as well, and you might stop there just before you go home. There was also recently the news, in the past couple of years, that soju and a particular brand, the Jin R brand, let's call it, being the most popular or most well-sold drink in the world in terms of liquor, right?
Wow.
It beat out the vodka brands. And surprisingly, like in the top 10, there's actually 3 brands of whiskey that I'd never heard of. They're Indian whiskey brands. The growth of Indian whiskey is massive.
Interesting.
But the Gin R brand batted them all out of the park. And it's number one, head and shoulders in terms of the number of cases of liquor sold a year.
No
right?
surprise then why Jay Park wants to start his own soju company, I guess.
Yes, I'm sure it's not just out of the goodness of his own heart. And I think actually, tying it into like Squid Game and K-dramas and stuff like that, there was some study where it was a crazy percentage of Korean dramas have at least one scene with the green bottle in
Oh,
it.
really?
You don't see a Korean drama where someone is not drunk and then spilling out their feelings for someone or getting a bit hungover and stuff like that. And so, looking at drinking culture around the world, you mentioned something in, where was it, Newfoundland?
Newfoundland. So Newfoundland is our easternmost province. Not many people, if you're not from Canada, might not even be aware of Newfoundland. But anyway, it's a beautiful place and the people there are so kind. But if you want to become an honorary Newfoundlander, then you have to kiss the cod.
Kiss the cod.
Yep. They have their own whiskey in Newfoundland. It's called Screech.
Okay.
It's disgusting.
Lovely.
Oh, wow.
And if you want to become an honorary Newfoundlander, they hold a dead cod fish up in front of you.
Yeah.
And then you kiss the fish on the lips. And then you take a shot of their Newfoundland Screech, of their Newfoundland whiskey. And then you are an honorary Newfoundlander.
Wow, that's very aggressive.
Oh, that's interesting. I actually saw in Korea there was this, I think it was a type of cod. We call cod by different names depending on whether it's frozen and dried and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But having that as not a real one, but just a model, like a plaque at a business that I used to work at, they used to say it will bring luck. And I don't know if it's traditionally Korean, but he used to kiss it every day.
Oh, really? Was he from Newfoundland by any
He might have
chance?
been. One that I did read about from Canada, I wonder if you've heard of this. It's at the Sourdough Saloon, and it's a secret club that you can get into if you finish the sour toe cocktail. Have you heard of that cocktail?
Oh, I don't like the sound of sour toe cocktail.
I don't know what that is.
It might well be worse than you're thinking, because you might be thinking, dip your toe in it, maybe lick someone's toe. No, it is a generous helping of alcohol with allegedly preserved human toe in the alcohol.
Oh.
You don't have to eat the toe, but you have to drink the alcohol that has the human toe in it.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that. Where in Canada is that?
It doesn't say. The Sourdough Saloon. I'll have to look up where exactly that is.
Must be Vancouver, those hipster weirdos.
And in the UK...
Kidding, Vancouver listeners, kidding.
We love you. In the UK, the traditional kind of alcohol thing that I think of, and I wonder if this is in other countries, is a yard of ale.
Oh, the tall, yeah.
And it's got a bulb at the bottom,
Yes.
and it almost looks like a trumpet from there on out, or a trombone, a long kind of neck.
Yeah.
and it's literally a yard of ale. It's 90 centimeters long, the glass. And then you have to down that as quickly as possible. And the trick is the air rushing into the glass as the beer comes out. If you tip it too high, then the alcohol doesn't come out quick enough. Like there's a block. So there's a perfect way of doing it. And the record is 5 seconds, I think.
Really?
Yeah. And you see people at pubs do this. They'll like hold an event once every while. And people just make fools of themselves, like spilling it all over their face. But when you see someone nail it, it is a sight to behold. It's beautiful.
Never heard of that before. Either.
Yeah. And then I looked around the world, and there are some really odd and interesting ones. In the Ukraine, when you go to a wedding, and it's quite common in many countries to have a bit of a drink at a wedding. Here in Korean ones, you can often have the table where there's soju and you can ask for beer and blah, blah, blah. But in Ukraine, you are supposed to drink wine from the bride's stolen shoe. So it's the bride's mission to keep her shoes for the whole reception.
Okay.
But people will try when she's maybe sitting down or something like that.
Sneak up and steal her shoe.
And then pour wine in there and drink from it.
Ew.
Okay, but
I might rather have the human toe drink.
No
At least
way.
that's preserved.
Well,
this
first of all-
this is off a fresh foot.
Whose toe is this even? But yeah, that's actually really interesting. Because, in Australia, they have the shoey.
What's the shoey?
You drink beer out of a shoe.
As in a
Whose
real shoe?
A real shoe.
Like a new shoe?
No.
Like someone's
shoe.
random shoe?
Isn't
But,
that...
okay, my Aussie friend said they actually never done it, but
Oh.
it is something that Australia is kind of known for.
Don't they do that in Korea too at like the membership training where they pour a bunch of different alcohol in a shoe and then you have to drink
Not
that?
a shoe. I would say it's like 냉면 사발.
And just a big like metal bowl or something like that. It's
Oh
more
my.
common. There might be some people who do it in a shoe. In the UK, it might be common when you've won a football league or a cup
Oh, then
that you'll
do
pour
it
it in a
that
shoe, the champagne. So coaches have sometimes been given that. And that's even more disgusting. That's caked in mud and everything like that.
Wow.
Over in Germany, to do with wedding, this is a pre-wedding drinking tradition. The groomsmen are supposed to gently kidnap the bride and take her to a bar to wait for the groom to arrive to rescue her by buying a round of drinks.
Okay.
Which is kind of fun,
That's
I
fun.
thought.
That happens after the wedding?
Yes. No, before the wedding, pre-wedding.
Oh.
So to pay for your bride, basically.
Oh, interesting.
You need
Love
to buy
your-
the groomsmen.
Love your emphasis on gently kidnapping.
Of course, nothing too violent. In the Czech Republic and a lot of Eastern European countries, the toasting is a really big thing. Like we sometimes do toasting in Korea, right? Kombe and cheers in the UKs and jans.
But a toast involves a speech, though, correct?
You're right, yeah. So that's often lacking in Korea. Unless it's like the end of a season at a show, then maybe the producer will say a little something.
Yeah.
But it's not as common as speech, right? But in the Czech Republic, it is big to do a speech. You're meant to make eye contact the whole time. That's quite true in Scandinavian countries as well, because from Viking culture, they used to be suspicious. Maybe during the toast, they would try to start a fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you've got to keep your eyes on one another. And then you've got to drink every last sip before you put your glass on the table.
Oh,
That's
wow.
sometimes enforced in Korea as well. They'll be like, "다 마셨어." You haven't drunk it all.
That's part in Korea too. Like if someone else is going to fill your glass, which is another part of drinking culture here, you never fill your own glass, right? But if you have a little bit of alcohol left, then they say something. They say something to you. They won't fill your glass until you finish what's
like
in
다
it.
마셔. That
Yeah,
kind
but
of
there's
thing.
a word for it. I forget what it is.
남겼어, something like that. You're right. And they make you drink it before they put in new alcohol.
And if they're
right?
older than you, then you have to turn your head to the side and cover your mouth with your hand so they can't see you drinking it. It's very complicated drinking culture here in Korea.
There's a lot to learn.
There really
it's
is.
fun too.
It's a lot of hierarchy. But in the Czech Republic, yeah, that's not it. You also shouldn't cross your arms while toasting on the table when you're doing your cheers. Your arms should all be in a line. And the bad luck thing that they believe is that you will be cursed with bad luck in the bedroom for years to come.
Oh dear.
Yes,
if you cross your arms.
or you don't make eye contact, or you don't drink every sip.
Oh, wow.
Any one can lead to that, right?
Wow.
Don't do that.
It's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of tie your arms behind your back for that meeting.
In Holland, they're known to have a good time in places like Amsterdam. And to get you very drunk in a short space of time, which we don't condone, they have this thing called the Headbutt. And it's not quite as violent as it seems. They'll have a beer and then a whiskey chaser next to it in a rather beautiful kind of almost flower-shaped cup. And the top is very wide and it's filled to the brim. And then with no hands, you've got to bend down at the waist and as much of the whiskey as you can without using your hands and then chase it down with a whole beer.
That's not surprising. When I went to the Olympics out on the East Coast, they have the different houses, right? Canada House, America House, Czech House. The most fun place I went was the Holland House. That was a party, and they were really, really nice. And Dutch people are gorgeous. All of them.
Yes.
The guys, the girls, they're all 7 feet tall and looked perfectly sculpted.
Yeah, and speak amazing English most of the time as well. Over in Spain, they say, and this might be a bit of a downer for those who don't drink alcohol, but they say it's very bad luck if you don't toast with alcohol. Like there must be alcohol in your glass. If it's a soft drink or if it's water, I don't know why they take after the Czech Republic for this, but again, 7 years bad luck in the bedroom.
Oh, really?
In this case,
Wow.
yeah. So you don't want to do that. And then in Belgium, where I did go and have the famous like beer and French fries, which was delicious with some mayonnaise, their thing is beer is like the national drink, but one of the combinations that I don't think has ever crossed my mind, beer and chocolate is what you're meant to have.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, here you might find like popcorn in a bowl on a table, but in Belgium you might find some chocolate in a bowl.
Yeah, they're very famous for their fine chocolate, right?
Yeah.
Swiss chocolate as well, but Belgium, especially in Europe, and the truffles and stuff like that. So having a bit of beer and then down in it with some truffles. I don't know how well that would go. Maybe a particular type of ale.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound too bad to me.
I remember going back to Canada for the first time after being in Korea for a while and learning that part of Korean drinking culture where you never fill your own glass. If you finish your beer cup, your friend will fill it for you. I went back to Canada and I met my friends for some beer and my cup was empty. And I put it on the table.
For them to see.
Yep. And I looked at them and they said, "What?" And I said, "My cup is empty." And they said, "Then fill it up."
There is no pouring for one another.
There's no jong in that. Come
Exactly.
on, guys. Canadians are so cold, it seems.
At least they could touch your glass while you're filling it up.
Absolutely, they should. All right, that was fun, Pete. We'll move on now.